the traps which are set in the portal are exactly similar what the GMAT has actually set. So the moment I see a particular question, I used to realize, or it used to strike me that this is the trap that they want me to do. Actually, I think 2 months would be a good enough time. Taking too much time also, I think you will lose track of your basics. That is what I felt, that if I take too much time, I lose my basics and then I have to revise, revisiting those concepts again. So my time management was really bad. That is what I think that is why my score was really bad.
Hello, everyone. Today we have Pravalika with us. She recently scored a 770 on her GMAT. And what's even more amazing is that she's got a 47 on her verbal. Now, everyone who has given the GMAT or is about to give it knows what a phenomenal score this is and knows the kind of expertise that you require to get such an amazing score. So, hi, Pravalika. First of all, congratulations on this amazing score.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I'm sure that everyone, I think all the students who are about to give the GMAT would definitely love to know, first of all, how your journey has been throughout this whole part, right? What kind of challenges did you face and what did you exactly do to really overcome all those challenges? So yeah, over to you.
Thank you. So I guess so I am Pravalika and I've been with top 1% for the last 1.5 year, I would say. So contrary to all the students, my journey was not very smooth. I had to give like 6 attempts to reach this score. So when I first started, I got 660 last year, and at that time I spent almost 3 months. So I was very disheartened to see the score that I got, and from there till getting the score that I wanted. So it's been really satisfying after getting the score that I always dreamt of.
Makes sense. So I think, like even in my own journey, when I was giving the GMAT, I've given the GMAT back in the past, and I think when you get a score which you're not really expecting, right, it gets difficult to pick yourself up from there because you have to start the prep again. You have to pull yourself up from that particular score, and you get the kind of guidance you require, a set of a good amount of guidance to get you there, right? So what did you do over there? How did you pick yourself up? What really helped you out in this process?
Because it was very tiring, and every time I gave my attempt, I used to be disheartened. And immediately after 2 days, I used to pick myself up and again start from scratch. So that was really difficult. So I used to mail my ESR to the top 1% faculty immediately as soon as I get it, so that I wanted to see what can be done better.
Right.
And in my initial attempts, so what changed was first, I think I did not focus on basics last year. So I was in rush to finish the content. I was very excited to give the mocks. And even though I was getting around 690 to 720 in the mock, somehow magically I was hoping that things would change in the exam. And my time management was also very bad last time. But still, I was hoping magically my time management would be very good in the exam. So, but that is not at all the case. That I've realized that mocks are actually a true reflection of how you do in your exam. The time management or the accuracy is almost, especially the top 1% mocks, the standard is almost the same that you get in the exam. So I was in denial that I would get a good score even when I was not covering my basics well. So from then, what really, in hindsight, changed is that instead of focusing on mocks and trying to finish up the material, I should have focused more on basics. I had error log, but the biggest mistake I feel was I did not spend time. I used to just see what is the right answer. I had a very beautiful red, green error sheet, but which I did not follow. I did not reflect on my mistakes. So one guidance from one of the faculty at top 1% that really was a game changer for me was, he said, rather spending 30 seconds on a error log, just seeing what is right, you rather spend 5 minutes and don't worry about finishing too many mocks or practicing so much, so that you will understand what is the mistake so that you can course correct then back from there. So that is something that has been really helpful. So after giving 5 attempts, somehow it took so much time for me to unlearn all this stuff from my top 1% and start from scratch. So that is what made the difference in my last attempt. So
Right. So from this from what you just said, I think what I'm getting is that it's not only enough to just create those error logs, but it's all equally important to really analyze and dive deep into what exactly is going wrong for you, right? and to get those insights out there. And if you don't do that, the error log is not really that useful, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in my last attempt, I did not revise anything. I think after giving 5, 6 attempts, all the concepts were in my mind. I knew all the strategies. Only thing I focused was I just took out my error log. I did not even give single mock because my time management was pretty good. I think after giving so many attempts, only thing I tried to change was I was just looking at my error log, trying to spend at least 2 hours on one mock and trying to analyze what went wrong, what could have been done better, and I noted those things. And when I was giving my next mock, I made sure that at least these mistakes should not repeat again. So that is how I think it helped in my last attempt. Yeah.
Right. So it was incremental for you. Makes sense. Makes sense. So on that note, I think you've shared with us that Quant was not that great for you when you initially joined, right? It has been a roller coaster ride for you in that area. So definitely want to understand more exactly how that topic has worked out for you. What were your challenges there particularly, if you could share those?
So I think despite coming from an engineering background, I am always scared of math. Even now, I think despite getting 51 in one of the attempts, I am still scared of math. I don't know, somehow it gets to my head. So what helped? I think when I started, my accuracy in quant was really bad. Like out of 35, I used to do at least make 12 to 13 mistakes in quant. That was consistent. So and but I was not disappointed because I knew that once I practice more and more mocks, it would get better. Surprisingly, in
Mhm.
my initial mock, even though my score was very low, I was expecting quant somewhere around 45 or 46 because I was always very underconfident in maths. But I think in all the attempts, one thing what that was consistent was either I got 49, 50, or 51. So the only thing that helped me is the mocks in the on the portal. So what I felt was the traps which are set in the portal are exactly similar what the GMAT has actually set. So the moment I see a particular question, I used to realize, or it used to strike me that this is the trap that they want me to do, especially in the DS part. So that really helped practicing variety of questions on the mocks. So that really helped so that I did not face any challenge in the quant on the exam, no matter what. And I think coming from a person who is very scared of math and who is confidently able to say that math quant in the GMAT is very easy. So I can confidently say that only thing that helped me was the portal mocks and the material 700 to 800 questions. I think the difficulty in 700 to 800 level is way more than what the GMAT asks. So at least I am prepared even if there is any difficult question in the exam. So
Right. So I think familiarity with the kind of section, the kind of questions that will come across, that kind of really showed you the field, how, what exactly are you facing, what kind of challenges are you going to face, right? Makes sense. I think a lot of students face this particularly because we have a lot of students who face problems with math, and once they go through all the content, right, they find it quite easy to go through the exam, in a much safer manner. They feel that they know what they are coming across. I think it has been the same for you too. Right. Then on the front of verbal, anything particular there which you can point out?
verbal RC has been okay for me since the beginning. My accuracy was around 70 to 80%, not very great, but since the beginning it was okay. But CR and SC especially were very bad. I think when I first started my SC, I still remember I took one sectional test. In that, I got an accuracy of 20 to 30%. So that was really tough for me to again, despite practicing so many, watching so many videos, I was very disappointed. I didn't know what was wrong. So SC, what I realized was when I look at the options, I was still applying my intuition, no matter how much I had my concepts in my back of my head, but I was not applying those. So
Right.
somehow I was trying to use my intuition, especially when I'm giving my marks under time,
Right.
managing time. So that is something that took a lot of time for me to not apply intuition. And so in CR also, whenever I used to see question, my intuition used to kick in. No matter how many concepts I used to learn in all my 4 attempts, I used to go blank. I used to just apply intuition. That took
Right.
some time. So what I did was, especially in the CR, instead of practicing under time, in my last attempt, I first tried to practice 50 questions without any time. I took as much as time I wanted. I wanted to go deep. What was my thought process in marking some answer? What is going wrong with my thought? So what could have been done better? So I spent at least 5 minutes on each question so that I wanted to get my basics right, and then I started giving mocks with time. So that really helped. So I think in my whole journey, only thing that was to learn the basic side. So I had to stop giving exams on time and do the basics first, and take so much time on spending more time on each question, and then gradually shifting to mocks. So that really.
Right. Because what I see is you have a verbal 47, right? That's a phenomenal score, first of all. So if you're saying you're facing so many challenges, so going slow and steady, trying to get everything in order, and then facing the mocks, I think that really worked for you. Structuring that whole prep for your own self, right? I think that really helped you out to get this amazing score as well, right? So
Right.
on that note, actually, what I also want to understand, right? What exactly at top you think really helped you out? Definitely the content was there. I think you would have attended some strategy calls as well. You shared that you shared your ESR with us, right? How did that really help you? And additionally, what kind of, obviously, we are there to help you out. We are there to support you. After that, right, it's all about trusting the process and things around that. So did that really help you out get all the problems in order, right? Get proper structures to your problems and then solve it, or anything else that really worked?
So I think one thing that kept me motivated through all my attempts is Sandeep sir uh, making it possible that I think after seeing so many students getting 760, 770,
Right.
I was never satisfied with a 720. I got in third attempt, but I was not at all satisfied with that. So that one biggest factor for me at top 1% is making students believe that they can actually get a 760 or 770. So that was the only motivation. Whenever I used to see I was demotivated, I used to just scroll through top 1% LinkedIn post. That really
Right.
inspired me sometimes. And after that, I used to ask so many doubts. In my first attempt, I realized that I just rushed into basics. So after that, gradually, whenever I had any doubts, I used to ask so many questions. And I think sometimes faculty even got on a call with me to explain my doubts. So that was also really helpful because I didn't know what I was doing wrong in any particular question, though. So they were really supportive that way. And even in my ESR, it's been long, but one of the faculty, I forgot his name, sorry, but he really went very deep into my ESR. He told me what was wrong. He gave me the section wise analysis. So that really helped. For example, my probability section was always weak, which I did not realize that
Right.
consistently, that I've been doing very low. So those sectional guidance that sir gave was really helpful. So I could focus more on particular sections.
Makes sense. So, in all, if you sum it up, right, would you say that top material and the support that top provides, right, is that enough for someone to get this phenomenal score? Like, or would you
I
have to
think
use other content as well?
no, absolutely. I think it's more than enough. I think, in fact, there's so much material that one will not be able to finish that.
Right.
I think, despite giving so many attempts, I was not able to finish all the material. The questions were so good. I ran out of mocks, obviously, because I gave all the mocks. But otherwise, the 700 to 800 questions, I used to pick up new set of questions every time. The questions were not repetitive, and even they are repetitive, I used to learn something new every time I re-attempted that question. So I think the quality of material and the quantity is phenomenal at top 1%. No, I think the mocks also, I feel one need not refer any other material for that. Especially Quant is absolutely game changer at top 1%. I feel.
Makes sense. And I think that it's all about, breaking that barrier after a point, right? Once you hit that 720, 730, the Harvard median score per se, then it's
Mm.
all about, getting those traps right. And I think top 1% content really helps you there. I'm saying from my own experience, I'm sure you would share this,
Yes.
right? So,
Yes,
right.
yes,
That's
absolutely. Yeah.
makes sense.
So
So,
I think that is, as I mentioned, as soon as you see the question, to know that what is the trap they've set is
right.
something that you get only with practice and doing really good quality questions. So yeah.
Makes sense. So another thing, a challenge that a lot of students face per se when they are preparing for the GMAT is that they are finding it difficult to juggle the preparation with their work, college, things like that, right? So till I know, I think you were working while you gave your GMAT. Is that right?
Yes, yes,
Right. So
yes, yes,
how did
correct.
you manage this, and how many hours per day were you able to give for your preparation?
Yes, this has been the difficult part for me since it was not one attempt. So it was consistently almost 6 to 7 months I had to overall I had to put in this. So I used to work from 9 to by the time I used to come back, it used to be 9 p.m. So what
Yeah.
I used to wake up early, and 6 to 8 is something that I used to keep for myself. I used to
Right.
prepare, and after coming back, I was almost tired every day, so I could not prepare, dedicate that much time. But on weekends, I used to spend a lot of time. I used to make up for the time that I could not spend on the weekends. And it is definitely very challenging to attempt a GMAT while working, but it is definitely not doable. I think I spent for the first time I spent around 2 to 3 hours per day. Gradually after that, since my concepts were right, I used to spend more time on the weekend practicing mocks and analyzing. So yeah.
Right, makes sense. So would you say that if you are consistent enough, right? Even if you're saying you give 2 hours per day on the weekends and weekday, and on the weekends you pushed harder, right? So would
Yeah.
you say that if you're consistent, then even while working, or if you're caught up with your college work, right? This is a doable journey. Anyone can do this per se, right?
Yes, actually, I think 2 months would be a good enough time. Taking too much time also, I think you will lose track of your basics. That is what I felt, that if I take too much time, I lose my basics, and then I have to revise, revisiting those concepts again. So I think 2 months is a good time once you you finish all your videos, and giving good 1 month for your practice and mock should be good enough, I feel.
Makes sense. So another thing that I caught when you were saying, right, time management. Now, not a lot of people, know this before they give the exam per se.
Yeah.
But on the day of the exam, there are sometimes they feel a sort of element of surprise that they lost their composure and time was running out of hand. They had to rush things like that. So were you prepared for that because of the top content, or you had to really focus onto it and get things done and get better at that area per se?
So in my initial 4 attempts, my time management was really bad. That is what I think that is why my score was really bad.
Right.
So somehow I was in the false hopes that I would do better in the exam, but I was not. So I made sure that before I book my next slot, I would do actually well in my mocks. Then only I booked my next slot. So what used to happen that in the second, especially in the second quarter, there used to be one RC question or CR question on which I was stuck, and I was not able to move on.
Right.
And that really used to uh, screw up my time management in the third and fourth quarter, especially. And I used to have, I was left with almost three questions with 2 minutes, 1 minute. Obviously, they used to be definitely guess I could not even attempt. So
Right.
that really, and consistently making mistakes in consecutive questions definitely lowers your score by a lot. So when I used to analyze my ESR also, I used to realize that my accuracy in the quarters which I spent time was good. But obviously in the third quarter, as I was not managing my time, it used to drastically drop down, and my overall score used to drop down. That was especially in verbal, surprisingly. Quant, I used to manage my time well, but in verbal, there used to be one RC or CR question on which I used to always stuck, because I used to have the feeling that I can get this answer right if I spend more time, but it was not at all the case. I feel in hindsight, I should have moved on from those questions and attempted. Yeah.
Right. So I think in the last attempt you would have really worked on that pretty well, right? Because you wanted
Yeah,
to.
I made sure that before booking my next slot, I wanted to get the time management part right
Right.
before booking slot. So yeah.
So it's equally important to, get yourself in the right mindset before you book your exam or before you give the exam per se, right? One last thing before I move on to the exam bit and the next part. You said do not rush. Now, this is something
Yeah.
I get it a lot of times, right? Students want to get done with GMAT quickly. They want to just, get done
Yeah.
with this so that they start with their applications. But I believe
Yeah.
that personally from my own experience as well, that is the mistake we all make, right? So, what would you say on that note to the students who are currently preparing? Like, what should they be doing if they feel that such a adrenaline rush to get through the exam as soon as possible? What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, I think I was in the same mindset. I was in hurry to apply to my round one, so I was just booking my slot within 15 days. So instead, had I spent more time in giving one good attempt rather than spending 5 attempts, I
Right,
would have saved so much time and energy, mental bandwidth as well.
right,
And trust me, giving 5 attempts is not at all easy. So why not do right in the first time? So it takes a lot of energy. giving one attempt and imagine doing that again and again, picking yourself up. It's not at all easy and it gets demotivating each time. So
Makes sense.
I would say do it right the first time so that you get more time in spending time in writing the good applications rather than spending multiple times in GMAT. So save the time for applications.
Right, makes sense. Makes sense. This makes a lot of sense to me as well. So, right. So I think that's on the front of GMAT. Just one final thing on the exam day. I think you've already answered this, but just to state it out outright, right? Any surprises on the exam, you would say, after preparing so much? I think you already answered it, I would say. But yeah, I think if you have any pointers on that note, please do.
Yes, absolutely not at all. I think Quant, by the time I've given so many attempts, I used to feel that this is similar to mock. I used to be very calm in my quant section, especially. There was no surprises. I knew that the questions would be very simple and
Right,
they just had to. And there was no question in quant where I felt that I did not attempt because I don't know the formula. It was all very basic. There was no question which tests your memory. It was just basic and how you apply your logic. There was no question which was not at all able to, you were not able to solve because of the formula. And in verbal, especially, no surprises. Although I felt that SE was a bit different from the questions that I used to solve at a top 1%. So for that, what I did was I used to solve the OG question so that I could familiarize myself with the actual questions that were asked in the exam. So that helped in my last attempt too, so that I don't get the sense of unfamiliarity and then eventually I get nervous in the exam. So I didn't want to get that feeling. So I wanted to familiarize with the actual question. So that also helped. If someone feels that there is some question that you're unfamiliar with, I think you can practice OGs, you will get the actual feel of the questions as well. So
right. But even on the front of SE, right? Since you have said this, I would like to understand if the questions and the concepts are taught, right? All that were taught to you in also the manner that they were taught to you with the framework prime per se. Were they useful to you when you're facing those different challenges, different questions also? Like, did that really help you get through the SC part?
yes, I think when I was not able to narrow down to question, the prime or the preferences that really
Yeah.
used to help me so that I could mark and move on. I think that was really helpful. When I
Right.
was absolutely stuck on two options, I was not able to narrow down. So I used to use the preferences and that as my last resort, and I used to mark and move on. So that really helps, especially when there's some question you're stuck on.
Right.
So those rules absolutely are your savior in the exam. So
Makes sense, makes sense. So I would say SC is also something that you can, get out of if you're preparing for the GMAT exam, right? Makes sense, makes sense.
yeah.
So what would your advice be, right, to the students who are preparing right now, the do's and don'ts per se? Let's say you can give two do's and two don'ts for them. I think that will really help them, if they're making some common mistakes, which all students make, and which if you have learned from, right, they would be able to make a lot out of it. So yeah, you can share those as well.
Yeah, I think although I've mentioned this earlier, so I feel spending good amount of time in the error log is the first thing
Right.
that you need to do. And after giving that, like analyzing your error log will be a game changer. Trust me, you need not give so many attempts. Once you do that error log part right, you will get to the score that you always wanted. And second thing, unless you get a good score on the mocks, don't rush into booking slot. I feel, especially from I've spoken to some of my friends also. They also have the false sense of hope that somehow things would magically change in the exam, but they don't.
Makes sense.
So book your slot once you get a score that you're satisfied with, and then you move on. And don'ts are definitely cover your basics right.
Right.
Again, for when it comes to videos, never ever rush into the videos. It takes so much time to unlearn. So why not learn it right the first time again? So that is something that you should definitely not do. And the time management part, uh, you should never to be able to move on is something that you can practice only in mocks. So
Hmm.
never ever feel that in the exam you'll be suddenly able to, all of a sudden you'll be able to move on. No, it that is a habit. Your brain needs some training to unlearn that habit. So you should definitely practice to be able to move on in your mocks. Then only you'll be able to do it in the exam. So,
Right, makes sense, makes sense. So yeah, I think that's all a lot of students will be able to get a lot out of this, right? They'll get a lot of insights and common mistakes that students make. It's generally the same pattern that we see, right? So I
mm.
think this will really be helpful to them. So what's your plan ahead? What colleges are you targeting now?
So now I am planning to apply to top 15 schools.
Right.
So now I am planning to apply in round two. So I'm just getting started with the applications as I have less time. That is why I feel the suggestion which I do, spend time in giving first time right than rushing in the application. Now I just have very little time and I need have so many applications. So
Makes
yeah,
sense, makes sense, right? Makes sense. You can connect with us on that front as well. We can help you with that
yeah.
as well. So yeah, I think this has been a really fun chat, Pravalika. A lot of students will get a lot out of this. They will really be able to understand what kind of mistakes they were already making, and if they can learn how to get them right, I think it will be really helpful to them. So yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a great chat. Congratulations again on this phenomenal score, and
Thank you so
all the
much.
very best for your next journey.
Thank you. Thank you so
Right?
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.